welcome to yet another SUSU election debate 2013 with me, your host, James Binns. Here with me are the VP candidates for welfare. Guys, would you like to introduce yourselves, starting with you?
Hi, my name's Sophie Brewer.
I'm Josie Torres.
I'm Josh Cox.
I'm Jared Anderson.
I'm Becky Thomas.
Okay, over the next 30 minutes, these guys are hopefully going to battle it out and give you guys at home some really good ideas about what their manifestos stand for, why they want to be your next VP welfare, and why you should vote for them. Sophie, can you look at the camera and tell them your key points in your manifesto?
Well, I'd say my key points in my manifesto are, I think we've got a fantastic advice service. I think it'd be great if we could expand it, because sometimes I think it's slightly under-resourced, so that'd be good. I think also for welfare, like mental health issues, I think it's really good in the uni we have loads of different pockets of mental health support and support networks, but there's not something helping them all out at once. So I'd like to make like a department, and the same as we have a Nightline, to support all the disabilities networks. And I'd also like to improve their housing campaigns, because I'm really excited about working in the SUSU letting agency, so that'd be great. And my final one, I would say the main one, is making it slightly more sustainable and getting a bit more international, like national recognition for all our great sustainable campaigns.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, that's a wordy, but
Josie, do you?
Well, I've got 4 key policy areas, which are housing, health, happiness and habitat, because I want a really holistic approach to welfare. And I think for housing is the key issue for me at the moment, because I think that every student throughout the time at university has to stay in a house. And we've all experienced horrific houses and awful landlords, and so I want to change that. I want an open discussion forum for landlords and students to get together, bridge the gap and stop us just bitching about them. It shouldn't just be we have to go to the advice centre and get help. SUSU should back up students, but we also need to open talks to try and change the whole situation, change the culture of housing in Southampton. For health, I'd say we need to focus more on sexual health. I want a on-campus gun clinic at least once a term. I think that's something that's crucial for SUSU to get involved in. And for happiness, it's a very overarching idea. I just want to change the atmosphere and the culture of SUSU in general to be more inclusive, more representative, and to make students happier and safer, which falls under my happiness. And for habitat, that is things like provide a relaxation space, improve the campus environment, which both in terms of green issues and sustainability, but also in terms of making campus somewhere nice and pleasant to be. Because some students, me for example, spend almost 24 hours a day on campus, and it needs to be better.
Thank you. For a minute now, I thought you said a gun clinic, but
Oh God.
no,
No,
she doesn't
not
mean
one
that.
of them. We don't need one of them.
Okay, Josh, what was you?
So I've picked my top 5, and I've picked top 5 areas that I don't think we really work on as a student union at the moment. So I've picked sustainability, substances, sexual health, support for students and LGBT. So focusing on sustainability focuses on my role as ethical and environmental officer. We've made leaps and bounds as a union. I'm really sort of focusing on embedding sustainability at the heart of SUSU, and I truly believe that we can become a pioneer in sustainability, something I've become really, really passionate about, and it's something that we're sort of going to move on with in SUSU. Substances, focus quite a lot on alcohol, and running a campaign called Make Your Night Last. So introducing chill out zones at Friday nights or halls events, so that if you are a little bit too drunk, you can go to there where there's water, biscuits, things that kind of help you sober up. And also introducing a group of welfare officers, because bouncers can be the most intimidating people on a night out. I've experienced bouncers that are incredibly intimidating. It's having a group of people who you've trained up just to be there to say, it's okay, you're going to be fine, because alcohol does make a lot of people quite upset. They'd be in this area, makes me upset.
Maybe you shouldn't drink.
So that's sort of where we're going to go with that one, so creating a friendly face on a night out, so that it results in less sort of instances where they get kicked out and things like that. Sexual health, it's a bit of a taboo subject. We don't really talk about it a lot. We lump some condoms in reception, but we don't do a lot else. Quite interested on building a relationship with our local sexual health clinics. So like Josie said, bringing some gun clinics into uni, so that students can come to the union and discreetly have quite simple sexual health tests. Urine tests can be done anywhere, anytime. And I mean, chlamydia is one of the most prevalent sexual health issues amongst teenagers as well, so it'd be really good to get up here too. Support for students, really quickly, focusing on mental health, especially men.
Quickly.
There's a lot of stigma behind men and mental health. LGBT, it's all about building a really good relationship with our LAGLO officers, who are lesbian and gay liaison officers in our Hampshire Constabulary, and sort of raising awareness of a few LGBT issues that we haven't talked about before.
And he'll talk about more later. Gerard, over to you.
Mine's mainly focused on well-being, diversity on campus, and celebrating our diversity on campus, but also working with the uni itself as well as having the union. So for the well-being, mental health, I think our mental health systems and the services we provide for mental health are fantastic. I just think they need a bit more advertising. I think they need to be pushed in a healthy and not bombarding way, so that people, if they need the services, can get to these services. And if they also want services that aren't on campus, that aren't union based, if they want something that they might not have to walk to and bump into their friends, there are other options out there that are run in Southampton, and I think these need to be highlighted as well, because they're just as effective. I'm also big on having the union as a safe and healthy environment. There are a lot of people that find some environments in Southampton that aren't safe, and I think it's a really big thing that our union should be promoted as being a safe and inclusive and healthy environment in that sense. For the diversity on campus, I think we have a really fantastically diverse campus, and I think this should be celebrated with events such as Enid, the Chinese New Year, Diwali. Again, we've done these before, but I want to continue doing them. I want to do them bigger, better, more inclusive, but also not make them, sometimes they can feel a little bit alienated. I don't want them to feel like that anymore. I feel it's something that everyone can join in with, because yes, it's a religious holiday, but it's more than that. It's a holiday for a particular culture. It's a thing.
Quickly.
And then quickly, last point, working with the union. I want to work with the university. I want to work with the university so that the union points and what the societies and what individual student bodies and groups want can be taken to the university in the most effective manner, so that we can get the points of what the students want, what the university can and can't do, and find a middle ground instead of just trying to go one way and not trying to contact the other way.
Okay. Becky.
Okay. I've got 3 key areas. They're housing, wellbeing and equal opportunities. I'll try and do them really briefly. SUSU Housing Agency is hopefully starting this year, so I want to make sure that really runs smoothly and really works effectively, because it's such a good idea. And also I want to kind of stop the November panic that happens when everyone rushes to get housing, because it's a really stressful time for first years and second years. Third years. And yeah, just try and give more information in freshers packs to inform people of when they should get their housing, sort of wait till February time and try and liaise with landlords with that as well. Wellbeing, focus on like sexual health and mental health awareness weeks, and just providing more support for people. Within that as well as stress, exam stress, running chill out sessions during exam times, and providing sort of advice videos on SUSU, just how to cope with the exam stress will be really good. Equal opportunities, I want to kind of include Winchester School of Art a lot more, because I know it's a separate campus and it really needs to be included in all of the activities that we run, and we need to be aware of what's going on. And obviously postgrads and international students and all different groups, just to be able to get involved in everything that's going on in SUSU.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, guys. That's all we've got time for, because, you know, there's so many candidates here. No, I'm only joking. Going on to question 1. We'll come to you first, Josie, I think. Should SUSU stop working with unethical companies, even if students don't want us to? What do you think about this?
I think this is a key issue, to be honest, because I know it's definitely come up in Union Council recently. For me, I think the problem is that what's been overlooked over the last few years is that we, as well, hopefully me, as Sabbatical officer, are there to represent students. So instead of going to students and saying, ban Nestle, ban Coca-Cola, we should be asking them what they want to do. Obviously, as a union, we have an ethos and a culture to support sustainable companies and to not, you know, completely ruin the environment, obviously. But at the same time, I think representation comes above that. So we need to ask the students, we need to consult more, we need to engage them. So people don't come to Union Council. Like, I've been a Union Council for the last year, and most people don't even know that they're able to just turn up. We need to move it to somewhere that's more accessible, more open, more friendly, and engage people so that they can answer these questions. We're not here as Sabbatical officers to answer for them. We're here to represent them. So I think that's the key issue I would ask the students.
Okay. Becky?
I think you should definitely listen to the majority, sort of get a vote somehow. Obviously, everyone's not going to vote, but everyone that feels strongly about ethical issues should be able to have their say, because, like Josie said, it's not a Sabbatical decision. We're here to represent students and their decisions, so hearing back from them would be great. We could definitely make them more aware of ethical issues and the reasons we feel we want to take a certain stance, but not force that upon them.
Gerard, would you like to add anything to that?
To To be fair, I mostly agree with what's been said so far. I think that it's a case of sabbaticals should represent the student body. I don't think sabbaticals have a right to force their political or personal ideas upon the student body. And I think, yeah, it should be a interactive experience, not a you shall do this experience.
Okay, so all of you so far are agreeing with each other then that basically the students should be able to do what they want to do, even if the university is working with unethical companies.
I don't necessarily think it's about banning though at all. It's about education. So we might say we don't particularly like being involved with a certain company, but there are a lot of students in our university that need to be involved with that company as part of their career. So banning PwC off campus because they've audited the accounts of BAE Systems isn't the way to go. It's to say, yeah, we work with this company, but we'd like to publish some information about this company to say, so that you can then make the informed decision. And that's absolutely right. We don't listen to the 23,000 students we have on campus. We listen to the 40-odd people that sit in the Senate room and do union council. And as a sabbatical, the students should be telling us what they want and what they want us to do. We shouldn't be saying, quite like that, going to jump on that bandwagon, don't really care what the students say. It's why the union has become such a hostile environment, because we haven't been doing that. And we'd be failing as sabbaticals if we weren't doing it at all.
Sophie, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm going to be really boring and agree with everyone, aren't I?
It's
Oh,
different when
really
there's so
dull.
many of you that when you're the last candidate, it's a bit difficult.
Yeah, I should say something really controversial, like, I'm going to get rid of everything.
Well, when you all
I
sit
can't
here,
think of it. I completely agree with everything that's been said. I think sabbaticals should completely...
when you all sit here and you say, that the sabbaticals should listen to the student population regarding matters like this, how are you actually going to engage with the student population? Because they're not going to come to you. As you said, the Senate room, barely anyone goes in there. So how are you going to engage with people?
Something that I found that works really, really well is having these discussions in a really informal setting. Union council is quite intimidating. When you come into a room of God knows how many students, you don't really want to stand they're not superior anyway. They're exactly the same as you. They have a title. Doesn't make them any different. So an informal setting, in the bridge, an informal focus group. Something I've done focusing on sustainability is having some informal lunchtime workshops. So we'll provide you a lunch, we'll put you into groups, have a bit of a chat about things. That's the way forward. It's not about saying we're going to ban Nestle, we're going to ban Coca-Cola, we're going to do this, because we think it's what the students want.
So not a top-down approach?
No, it's about contacting as many students as possible in an environment where they're not afraid to talk, where it kind of just happens because it's a casual lunch.
George, you have something to say on that?
Yeah, I just think that it should be done with as many methods as possible. Some people respond to questionnaires, some people respond to contact groups, as Josh was saying, some people do turn up to these council environments. I think it should be done in a mixture of ways, put it out there in as many ways as we can, because the more that SABs say we were going to do this questionnaire and people just didn't respond to the questionnaire, I think that person is failing as a SAB by expecting everyone to fit this one questionnaire. Access these students in as many ways possible, because each student is different. You can't. Not every student is going to respond to a questionnaire. Not every student is going to respond to a workshop. You need to just sit there, come up with as many ideas as you can, and do as many of them as you can to get a realistic opinion of what is wanted on campus.
That's the issue I think we've seen as well. I think we've seen that a lot of time they put out a questionnaire and not get a response and go, oh, it must be an issue they don't really care about. We're not actually trying that many other methods, and it's like, oh, it's going to take too much time, it's going to take too much manpower. I don't care about how much manpower it takes. If we're going to get an issue out to students that needs to be discussed, I'll do it in whatever way possible.
I was going to say, if the issue is big enough, it warrants the manpower.
Exactly.
Josie?
I think what's worked really effectively recently is they started a union council discussion group, which is open on Facebook, and it's actually been quite a good platform for people to discuss this kind of issue. Like with the gender neutral toilets, that issue came up. It's all over campus now. The amount of people that have come up to me and said, what do you think
controversial.
About this?
That's
that was initially broached on the union council discussion group. And not only that, I think that because there is a lot of conflict within SUSU and within SUSU and outside, and people are intimidated sometimes, there's a lot of fear about accountability sessions such as like a question time for SABs, which is what I proposed on the union council group. And I've been trying to get that through council recently, and I know that a lot of people are worried about people attacking them, but I think that the more often you do it, and if you say had a question answer session, just like PMQs or something, in the bridge or in the concourse, once every 2 weeks, once a month, people wouldn't be so hostile to sabbaticals because they'd see them all the time. They'd see that they are just like us. They're locked away in the basement, in this office, we never see them. Like, I know that they're there working, but they need to be out. We need to be able to see them. They need to be approachable, and they're not approachable if they're all the way down there. And we also need to move Union Council out of the Senate room. like, how many people know where the Senate room is?
I
They've
don't
done
know
a
where it
video on it. I knew where it is because I watched the video, but that's about it. Before that, I had no idea.
I'm actually going to disagree with Josie on a point she made about the Union Council Ideas Discussion Group. I actually don't think it's a great forum at all for students to come and talk, because once again it's filled with the same people who seem slightly intimidating, and it's the same people commenting over and over again, and ideas get shot down and you kind of think, oh, my idea must not be very good. One thing I want to implement, there's been a lot of discussion about how policies go to Union Council, is why can't our students vote on what policies we should be discussing in Union Council online? We have the systems for it, so why don't we do it? So why don't we say, okay, these are the ideas we had this week. We had 9 ideas, we can chat about 4. What do you want us to talk about? It's not about what the SABs want us to talk about, what the Union Council Chair wants to talk about. It's what you want to talk about.
Well, what I want to talk about is contraception. Do you think that... Yeah, well, yeah.
That's good.
Do you want
Well, there are different sizes, and they produce.
What do you as candidates think about the university providing contraception? Do you think that the university should provide contraception, or is it just sort of creating promiscuity?
I think they should definitely provide it.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
That's a ridiculous idea.
I think that's a non-entity question, really, in and of itself. That should provide it.
Definitely. I mean, it's a bit like saying putting a fire extinguisher. I remember.
Absolutely.
Everyone's going to start a fire. Do you
What's
know what I mean? It's a bit.
Because we provide condoms upstairs, it's not like we're saying, here's loads of condoms, go out and have sex with 50 men in a night. It's like, it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
We should be looking after the safety of our students. And one of the issues that it does come with our students is not using contraception and unfortunately waking up with a really unwanted surprise. So absolutely we should be providing all forms of contraception, but I find that we're a little bit discriminatory when it comes to contraception. We provide condoms. What if a woman wants a femidom or something along those lines? We should be providing other sources.
Or a good old dental dam.
Yeah.
They're hard to come by.
We should be providing all forms of contraception, not just saying, oh, it's only men that need to use it. So,
Sophie, what do you think about this issue?
I completely. Which question? Do you mean the
contraception
original one, or do you mean the
contraception,
after?
yeah. I mean, do you think that other forms of contraception should be used? Or
Yes,
provided
I
on?
completely agree with that. I think that's a really good point. I think it's something that hasn't really been tackled. I think it's quite amusing hearing about that. I think we ran out of condoms really quickly this term,
Yes, yes,
very quickly. So I think definitely bigger and better is the way forward with this issue. I completely agree.
surely that shows that we need to be providing contraception.
Or at
as
least
well.
restocking
Yeah,
them a little bit more
That's
regularly
another thing as
than
well,
once a
is
term.
that we have a bit of an issue with providing contraception. Obviously, SUSU has to buy in the stock or try and get the stock from somewhere. So why aren't we promoting the C card, which is the condom card, which is something where you can use this card to go into a local pharmacy and you can pick up a stock of condoms for free. So if we can't give condoms, let's give C cards or other forms of means of getting contraception from other places. Because a lot of time it's quite embarrassing for you to go up to reception while everyone's watching and take a condom. I know myself, I wouldn't want to do it. I might want to just go into the pharmacy, hand over my card, and go, thanks very much, I'm going to go now. That sort of thing.
What do you guys think about this?
Or even you can get condoms that are promoted by charity. I know various forms you could get, like Stonewall used to do condoms, where you could just email them saying, I'm from this and this place, I'd like to do some activism for such and such, can you send us some condoms? Sure enough, there are plenty of places online that will send you them, and in their packets, yes, they advertise what they're doing, and it's a charity. So that's a win-win. You're giving out condoms.
So you're talking about
promoting a
the
charity.
university promoting charity as a way of getting contraception then?
Not the university, the
No.
Students' Union.
Just Students' Union. Excuse me. But it's an idea. If the union is iffy about funding for so many and buying so many in, there are other ways of doing it. You don't just have to just go out and buy a big pack of Durex and say, right, we're going to give these out. There are other methods.
I mean, Chloe Green had to go driving to pick up 2,000 condoms. Like we should be looking for other means
I was
of
going to
sourcing
say,
them.
there are other means of doing it.
Yeah.
Personally, I wouldn't mind driving into a place and saying, I'll have 2,000 condoms, please. But it's not the most financially...
Yeah.
It's not the best way to do it.
I think we should definitely make most of the C card, because if the resources are there, the NHS are able to provide those for us, probably like 90% of students don't know you can do that, and it would save SUSU funds to be spent elsewhere.
And the amount of pharmacies that are on campus or near campus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Josie, you want to say something?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think the issue is at the moment is that we're only focusing on contraception, which of course is important, and SUSU should definitely provide contraception, but we need more advice. We need
Yes, that's a
more
good point.
open discussion about sexual health. Like, what is it? Something like 63% of cases of chlamydia are in people in our age group, generally at university. So that's why I want a gum cleaner on campus, because we shouldn't have to go to the Royal Southampton, which a lot of people, especially first years, don't even know where it is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you should be able to go into a students' union and get the advice, the help, and the screening that you need, and then they can chuck in a few free condoms and dental
Yeah.
dams.
I like when you're talking about, all of you sort of talked about really like devolving power to the students, not for top hierarchical sort of government, really.
Yeah, definitely.
So moving on to the next point, how would or how should the union choose its campaigns?
I think it goes back to the point I was making about how we decide on our policies for Union Council. I mean, there's lots of controversy around how these policies were decided on. It's exactly the same. We are a students' union. We're not a sabbatical union. We are a students' union. Why aren't we standing up for what our students want us to stand up for? So once again, it's asking the students, going out, the SABs this year called it goating and goaling, going out and talking, going out and listening to our students, actively talking to our delegate. Any politician will go out and talk to their delegate. We are technically politicians, why aren't we talking to our delegate? It's very, very irritating when you find it incredibly hard to talk to a SAB, or a SAB takes 3 months to answer your email.
Sophie, what do you...
No, I completely agree with that. I think that's a good way. I think breaking down the barriers between sort of the sabbatical positions and the rest of the student body is a really valuable thing to do. And maybe even branching out to places that not necessarily people would originally think, like, oh, go along and decide what campaign. Perhaps like going to societies and actively saying, hi, like, I'm here, I'm wondering what you're thinking, or that sort of thing.
Would you have the time? How would you choose those societies?
Well, obviously you could delegate those roles. I mean, it wouldn't be necessarily every single SAB would have to go to every single society, all 180 or whatever. But, you could definitely delegate roles and, really get to people who are actively involved with
I was going to say, haven't they allocated society groups to different sabbaticals now? I thought
They
that was
have,
part
yeah,
of
it's
the
a
system.
new zoning structure. But then I disagree with delegating, to be personally frank with you. I'm a little bit fed up of how sabbaticals have delegated their student leaders. Sabbaticals are paid to do this job full-time for a year. Get out and talk to your students. Don't delegate to your student leaders. It's not your job to delegate to your student leaders.
I disagree with Josh there, because I think the role of student leaders as elected student leaders is to do what SABs got. Like a SAB is one person and they only have so much time and they've got so much responsibility, and yet, like I said, we should bring them up from the basement and send them out onto campus. But at the same time, I think it's good to have as many students involved in the union process as possible. So instead of having a very small select group of student leaders that are really put upon and overworked, we should have more student leaders. There should be more welfare officers to go out and do these things and ask the questions, because the problem is, I think, the way I see it, there isn't a clear enough hierarchy. So you have welfare officers, you have student leaders, but they're not actually trained or given a remit. They're not told what they can do. So you're constantly worried that you're stepping on somebody else's toes. Whereas I think if you were trained for your role, you would know exactly what you can do, what you can't do, and you'd go out and do it.
But that's
okay, so do you agree with Josie or with Josh?
Well, I just think that... sorry, I've said mind blank. Hang on. Can you repeat what you said? That's the worst time to have it.
It was all. It was saying that should SABs go out and talk to people, or should they delegate?
Should we
roles?
delegate?
Yeah, no, I think it's... I disagree there with Josh, that you can't expect the SAB to do everything. Like, they're going to have to delegate.
I'm not saying do everything. I'm simply saying that you shouldn't just delegate and then sit in your office. You should delegate and go with them and support them. Like, it's not about sitting in the office and going, okay, my Nightline student leader is going to go out today and chat to people about Nightline. It should be me and my Nightline student leader are going to go out and talk about Nightline. I don't want it to be just a student leader thing.
I'm sure that's what current SABs do now. I don't think they sit in the office all day. I think they do get out there when they can, when they're not doing the other responsibilities they have to do.
Coming from my background and my experience, though, I'd say that the support I've got could be a lot greater, and my sabbatical could help me a lot more.
So you don't believe the SABs are doing enough hands-on work, basically?
I believe they're doing work, but I don't believe they're getting out to their students enough. And I do believe that I could be given a lot more support as a student leader. I'm running events by myself. I'm a volunteer. I'm doing my degree, and I would really appreciate more help from my sabbaticals. And I don't mean that we should just not delegate to our student leaders and the student leaders do nothing, because they play a valuable role in our student union. They really, really represent the minority areas that sabbaticals can't reach, but we need to be going out with them and supporting them.
Josie?
I agree, but I think a lot of that support could come through training. I think that's something that's really lacking. Like, as a union councillor, I had a Saturday of training, but really, it didn't outline my role very well. It was one slide in a PowerPoint. This is your role. Welfare officer, absolutely no training at all. People aren't aware of what their job is, and that's why we struggle. So, like, Josh, you have this massive workload put on you. You have to do it all. There's no training. There's no support. What we need is a better system, a structure and training, so that student leaders know what their role is and how they can do it best, and they have the ability to create their own team, which they can then delegate to. And then in that way, more people are involved in the student union. It shouldn't be like 40, 50 people at union council or in a welfare committee. It should be everyone.
Yeah, agreed. And I do think that now that our student leaders have been in the position a lot longer and we've actually filled student leader roles, that this training can become much more role specific. So rather than 30 odd student leaders sitting in a room together and receiving the same training, I would like to see our current student leaders doing a lot more one-to-one training. Another issue we have is campaigns officers and JCRs not really knowing their role on the welfare side. So we provide them with a lot more welfare training.
Gerard, what do you think about this?
I think what Josh is getting at is more of a give and take system instead of just do this. There should be much more of a we are going to cooperate and work together to do this. But I also think that the way it works, SABs can't be expected to do everything, but I feel that they should do some more. But at the same time, my original point when we were going back to when I was mentioning that the societies are underneath the different sabbaticals, is that sabbaticals can work together to access the majority of societies by saying, right, I'm going to get this information from my group, you're going to get that information from your group, blah, blah, blah. And that is the way they can just do it. It shouldn't theoretically take all that long if the committees on the societies are interested. And there are ways of using the system instead of just...
Can I add one thing to that?
Quickly,
What Josh said just now? Do you think it's worth maybe having sort of like joint roles? So if you felt you had too much work when you were a student leader, do you think that could be something that people share so that if the sabbaticals can't support as much as they should, the workload's shared?
Yeah, I think so. I think the other thing as well is that obviously I chair my own committee, and perhaps some of the time maybe my committee haven't been as supportive, so maybe we should be providing training to the committees as well as the student leaders. So the student leader gets all the training and is expected to kind of reiterate that back to the committees. Yeah. That's quite difficult to do.
So
let's train our committees, give our committees handbooks on how they should go about supporting their student leaders.
Okay.
They all agree on training, so that's a good thing. Okay, so next question. Should SUSU be focusing on issues specific to Sutton Uni, or should they be looking at larger, more national issues that affect students here? So I'll stop you, Gerald. What do you think?
I personally don't think that the SABs should be that politically active in the sense of they shouldn't turn around and say things like, I don't know, free Palestine, free Tibet. I don't think it's the SAB's position to stand there and say, I think we should do this, so the university is going to do this.
Okay.
If the SAB has that opinion,
so
it's their opinion. So I think that as the student union, we should focus locally. If the students want to do something national, that's fine. But I don't think that the sabbatical should turn up and say, we are going to do this national campaign because we want to do this national campaign. If it's student related, fine. If students want to do it, fine. But I don't think the SAB should be forcing it.
I was just going to say, we are sabbaticals for this uni, but the student body as a whole nationally, like, they should be able to have their say on issues like political issues. So shouldn't sabbaticals make all students aware of like protests they could attend and things that are going on without saying do it?
Yeah, I was going to say it's slightly different to what Joe was saying.
Yeah. There's a lot of I know there was a couple of years ago there was an argument about the SABs being too non-political, and then there's been some debate that they've been too political. I think there's a middle ground that needs to be found where they shouldn't. I don't think the SAB should say we're going to do X, Y, Z. But if a group of students wants to support something, they should have the divine right to do so, as long as they're offending no one.
Josie?
I think this is a difficult one because I'm very active in political societies, so politics is really important to me. So for me, as much support as the SABs can give us on these issues like the tuition fees like that, although we do need to represent specifically what our Southampton students want, we are a group of students in a body of students in the whole country, and fees are affecting us directly. So I think groups like Students for Education, they should be the ones taking the lead on national issues such as the tuition fees, but we need to provide them with more support. We need to promote their their society, I suppose. We should be taking people to the protest because that's obviously what students want because they've gone to them in the past.
So not necessarily getting directly involved, but helping the national issues that are there while focusing on local issues?
Yeah.
I think it's important to say as well, I've said it before and I'll say it again, we are a students' union. If you say you've got the backing of SUSU, that's a large body of students. I don't think we can say, like, students, you can just get on with it. We do need to provide them with support. And I know that there was an issue came to arise during Frankie's tenure as welfare, where they were like, should we support the Coney 2012 campaign? A lot of students said no, so we said, okay, if you want to support that, you can support that. But once again, it's asking our students, should we be supporting this? So there are issues nationally. Tuition fees are absolutely diabolical, but there are issues locally. HMOs, standards of student housing, it's absolutely appalling. I live in a really bad student house, I'm not afraid to say it, and it's working with the local council, working with the university to ensure that we can lobby local landlords to increase the standing of their housing. We are not second-class citizens as students. And so there are these issues, local issues as well, that we need to deal with.
Sophie?
Yeah, I do. I'm at the end again. But yeah, I think basically as a sabbatical officer, you couldn't, you wouldn't want to spread out your work ethic all over the place. You want to be concentrating on the union because obviously they're paying you and that's the main thing. But I think education really with that sort of thing and getting the message out there, if there's a, protests going on. I know we all heard about the protests for the fees a while back and I went on a little coach and a little t-shirt on. I thought it was really good that the union advertised that and I think more pushing for that I think would be a good thing. So I think obviously focusing on the uni but having a sort of a educational influence.
Okay. There should be the opportunities to campaign nationally. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's kind of what I meant, that the sabbatical shouldn't delegate. We're going to do these national policies. If the people want to do them, like the student fees, that they should be able to and should be able to have the support to do it, but not to turn around and say we are going to do it because we've decided we are going to do it. We want to do it because the students want to do it.
Yeah. We have to remember that, of course, as sabbaticals representing students, we've got 23,000 students. Some are pro-Palestine, some are pro-Israel. As we've seen from recent protests on campus, we can't stand there and say, right, we're on this side, because it discriminates.
Yeah,
exactly.
There are
We
sensitive
can't do it.
students.
We
There
just
are
can't do
sensitive issues that we can't really comment on.
We need to just offer support and help and advice. We can't tell them what to do.
No.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, guys. Just briefly, if you'd like to just sum up again, very quickly, your key points into the camera and tell them why they should vote for you. We'll start with you, Becky.
Okay. Housing, wellbeing and equal opportunities. Housing, looking at the SUSU new agency that's starting and trying to prevent the November panic rush. Wellbeing, looking at sexual health, mental health, exam stress issues, trying to calm people down in exam time. And equal opportunities involving Winchester School of Art, postgrads, international, and just events involving everyone in SUSU that everyone can get involved with.
If you can all keep it that sweet, that'd be great. Brilliant.
Okay. Wellbeing, mental health, safety, diversity and celebration of diversity on campus, and working with the uni to provide better services for the students.
So I'm going to give you a sabbatical in-touch student body who isn't scared to stand up for your rights, who makes active change. I'm inspired to drive change. And I'm going to make those changes in 5 key areas: sustainability, substances, sexual health, support for students and LGBT. And we're going to have a fantastic year with me as VP Welfare.
Josie?
Well, with me as VP Welfare, hopefully. My 4 key areas are housing, health, happiness and habitat, and I want to take a holistic approach to the union, and as the role of VP Welfare I think housing is a key issue for starters, because we all live in a house, and generally a pretty horrible house, as we heard from Josh. Basically I want to support the letting agency, create discussion between landlords and students, and also for health I want help with HE1 forms, like a lot of us are paying for prescriptions when we shouldn't have to. Happiness, I want to make the union I suppose more representative, safe space for students who feel comfortable supporting religious festivals, promoting diversity, just like Jared said, and I suppose with habitat, making the university more habitable for us. Hospitable, that's the word, sorry, dyslexia coming out. Yeah, hospitable for all students. So make the most of our green spaces for one thing. Like we've got the garden around the back of SUSU. How many people have actually been to it? I go there all the time, it's empty. We need to promote these kind of spaces. So yeah, vote for me, please.
Yeah, I'd like to expand the advice service, which I think is really cool, and I'd also like to improve the support given to disabled and mental health areas. I'd also I'm really excited about the SUSU housing thing. I think it would be great to finally get something that's student focused. I'm going to work really hard on that, and also I think would just publicise what welfare we have on offer for students. I think sometimes students think I don't really know what's out there for me. So I think more publicity on where you can get your welfare needs from SUSU.
Excellent. Thanks again for coming, guys. Thanks for tuning in. With half an hour with all of these candidates, it was difficult to fit in everything. So if you want to check out any of their manifestos and what they stand for, go to susu.org/elections. Join us again for the next debate. See you soon.